You don't need any graphic design work experience to get started in this career. In November of 2021, I abruptly quit my job as a high school teacher. I had no way to pay my rent or any of the bills that I had due each month. It was the best decision of my life. By July of 2022, I was working full-time as a graphic designer. The crazy part is that until May of 2022, I didn't even decide that that's what I was going to do for a job. In 6 weeks, I went from starting my portfolio to sitting in my new cubicle to begin my graphic design career. I was completely unfulfilled in my job as a teacher. I was drained. I was staying up late every single night, waking up early every single morning, and working the majority of the weekend just to stay ahead on grading, lesson planning, and communicating with families. On top of that, I was constantly dreaming of doing something different. Once I quit, I spent about 6 or 7 months just delivering food on DoorDash and Uber Eats and streaming on Twitch. It wasn't great money, but I got by. I was completely content with my lifestyle, to be honest with you, but I could tell it was taking a toll on my girlfriend and my family. Come May of 2022, I needed to make a decision about what I was going to do with my career. Prior to getting my master's in special education, I did earn my bachelor's degree in graphic design, but I never once pursued it for a job. I thought, that's not for me. I don't want to work in a cubicle my whole life. In reality, I was underprepared and I lacked confidence. I spent most of undergrad pursuing my athletic endeavors, just assuming, hey, I'll be a college coach when this is all done. So while I did have a degree in graphic design, I saw it more as a hindrance because I just knew the questions would be, hey, it's been 8 years since you got this degree. Why haven't you been doing any design work? So I had to make a plan. I needed to have a diverse portfolio showcasing my skills in various types of projects. I made fake passion projects that included brand identity, poster design, social media graphics, animated explainer videos, animated broadcast graphics. Everything I created, I showcased in mock-ups. I made a brand for my friend who's an engineer. I came up with a live streaming and news service for track and field. That's a sport I'm passionate about. I did this because I have a lot of knowledge of track and field. So when the questions would come up in the interview about the project, I wanted to be able to get into the nitty-gritty details with a lot of confidence. Always sell these projects as freelance work and not just passion projects. Once I had my portfolio built up, I printed it. This seems to be a step that a lot of designers online nowadays are saying is optional. But when I was in undergrad, every single professor I had said, you can never show up to an interview without a portfolio in hand. So make sure you have it both digitally on your personal website and a print version that you bring with you. I also wanted to make sure to present the portfolio in a professional way. So instead of a 3-ring binder, I ordered it to be custom bound. These are small details, but they show that you care and that you know what you're doing. Also make sure not to present it on glossy paper. You want to be able to see the project in fine detail regardless of any lights bouncing off the surface of the paper. Next, I created my resume. I never really did stop designing over the years. I just never did it as a job. It's always something I've loved to do and have just done for fun on the side. So I knew my skills were still sharp. So on my resume, I exaggerated a bit and called it freelance work. When it comes to cover letters, my strategy was to sell my unique background as an advantage and not a disadvantage. I had worked as a teacher, a paraprofessional, and a coach, so I had experience being a leader. I had experience communicating in various styles with people of various age groups, from adults all the way to young adults and children, which is very helpful when trying to sell yourself as someone who's capable of mentoring potential design interns down the road. If you think of this process as a YouTube video, your portfolio is your thumbnail and your cover letter is your title. You need to stand out to the hiring managers before they even speak to you. When it came to applying for jobs, I applied everywhere, every open graphic design position I could find in my area. I even applied to some jobs as a printer, thinking that, hey, getting experience in printing would look good on a portfolio for a future design job. At this point, I was making all of my money from either delivering food or streaming PUBG on Twitch. So I wasn't picky about how much money I was going to be making. I just needed enough to get by. I had 3 different phone interviews within the first 2 weeks of applying for these jobs. All of them asked me to come in and do an interview. In total, I got asked to come in for 5 different interviews, one of which was the screen printing job. The first interview went great. It was a graphic design role. I feel like it was the best interview I've ever had. The people were very welcoming, very friendly, asked me a lot of good questions about my background, and I answered honestly. I spoke confidently and used my portfolio as examples to back up my answers to different questions about design theory. Fast forward 1 week, they called me and offered me a job. The offer was $5,000 more than I had asked for. It had solid benefits, and it was by far the best option of any of the jobs that I had heard back from for interviews. So I was understandably ecstatic. So I canceled the 4 other interviews and I accepted the job. And I just passed my 1-year mark at this job. Ultimately, the things that helped me land this job were being prepared, not only with a digital portfolio, but a print one too. I anticipated the type of things they'd be asking me. I predicted this based on my personal background, but also by doing some research on the type of questions you might hear at graphic design interviews. You can find good examples of this on Reddit or just by doing a quick Google search. Even YouTube has great resources for preparing for a design interview. Second, I sold my unique background as an advantage and not a disadvantage. Instead of the lack of experience in design I focused on the experiences I did gain in my previous roles. Finally, I spoke with knowledge and confidence in my own work and design theory in general. If you follow these steps and you're still struggling to get calls to interviews, I encourage you to reach out to communities that you're a part of. If you're a person of faith, maybe this is your church or your mosque. If you're a person that has a particular reputation in a certain community for excelling, you should look there. In my youth, I was known for my ability to run fast for long distances. I was a good cross-country runner and track runner. That actually is what led to me becoming a teacher. I got a job in a local school in the area I grew up at, coaching, and they asked me if I also would come in as a parapro, and then I worked my way up to being a teacher, and that's all because of the connections I made through track and field and cross country. Communities lift each other up. I'm not a great graphic designer. I'm not particularly charismatic. I don't really have any unique advantage in this process over anybody else, with the exception of I did have a bachelor's degree in graphic design prior, but as I mentioned before, in a lot of ways, that was also a disadvantage because of the expectations that would come with having a design degree. If I can do it, you can do it. Don't get discouraged if you get rejected. I've been to interviews that I thought went great, and then I never hear back from them again. It happens. Feel free to leave questions below. I'll answer them as quickly as possible. If you have advice as well, feel free to put it below. And if you like this video, be sure to check out the video here where I go over 5 different tips that will help get you out of creative ruts and elevate your skills as a graphic designer.